I'd like to call the meeting to order. All board members are present. Tammy is present remotely. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under.
See, first off, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any
No?
comments?
No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Policy Committee.
Okay, nothing really too new to report, other than we've been working on policies last 3 months over the summer. And in addition to that, we're working on the formatting. So we have them all aligned, and we have them going, kind of being consistent. And I'm just guessing maybe we've done about 40 policies this summer. Does that sound right, Jean? Something about that. And then we're going to meet again in September. So we're right on schedule for our 3-year cycle.
Thank you. Southwest Metro and CPAC, did you have you meet this summer?
Southwest Metro, the one news item from there is that we have a tentative agreement between the teachers and the Southwest Metro Board, and we'll be looking at ratifying that during the workshop week time frame.
All right, thank you. Community Ed,
Our next meeting is September 3rd, and we got a report from Janelle earlier, so.
yeah, it was nice to see all the numbers increasing for the Community Ed offerings for this summer. Superintendent reports.
Yes, I'll just give you an update right now. We've got, August 10th, we started football today. So they were the first fall sport. The season got moved up 2 weeks because of a conflict with TCF Bank Stadium. So they started today. They got a game in a week from Saturday. So they go just over 2 weeks, or basically 2 weeks of practice before the first game. And actually we'll play 3 games, I think, by Labor Day. So it's a lot different this year. The rest of the fall sports, well, marching band got going too, but marching band and the rest of the activities really get going next week, next Monday. So we're expecting another great turnout, great participation by our students. One thing I just want to make note too is when you're talking about policies, I should have said something earlier, but policy 430, donation of sick leave among employees too. That's something, for first reading amongst all the other policies tonight. But that's something we're working with the Education Minnesota on, and if there's any changes that come before this in the next meeting, we'll do so at that time. But they'll be looking a little bit closer at that and haven't had time to do that. But just want to give you a forewarning on that. What I want to talk about, I guess, goes into good news, update, good news, whatever, our MCA test results. And we put some of this on social media, and a little bit of it's gone in the paper, Star Tribune, but we've got some very positive things to share with you tonight, and I'd like to go over that with you right now. First off, in math, as a district, 79% of our students are proficient in math, and this is as a district I'm going over, which is 19 points above the state average. Now, to give you an idea how good this is, out of 359 school districts, we rank 8th out of 359. And that includes, of those, 2 of them that are above us have about 20 students in their high school. So it's we're ranked very high. In reading, As a district, 76% of our students are proficient, which is 17 points above the state average. Some other things to note, our students were improved by 3% this year in reading, and this puts us 9th out of 359 school districts in Minnesota. And this is the 4th consecutive year that New Prague's overall proficiency in reading has increased. So continually getting better. Science as a district, 73% of our students are proficient, 20% above the state average. And this ranks us 4th out of 359 school districts in the state of Minnesota. So we're in the top 10 of all school districts in the state, and this is pretty neat to see. I'm going to show you a chart now, just on comparison, and we always compare ourselves to state average. The test sometimes will change, but the rest of the schools we compare ourselves don't, whether it's state average or what Janelle's putting up here is comparable school districts. We rank number 1 again for the second consecutive year in math, reading, and science with our comparable school districts. The same thing for neighboring school districts. Scroll, please. Comparable school districts also, we rank number 1 in all 3 areas, math, reading, and science. So pretty neat to see. Very proud of our students, very proud of our staff for their excellence in those areas. The last thing I want to show you too, you might say, well, we're naturally, I mean, this happens every year or stuff, we've always been good. Well, I'm going to tell you, it hasn't always been good. When we, going back to 2007 on the MCAs, as you can see on the chart there, I know it's a little small, we were 75% of our kids were proficient on the test. State average was 68, I believe. There we go, which is 7% above. Now, as you go year by year, you go up that chart there, you can see the improvement almost every single year. We've increased, and now we're double digits, and we're at the greatest increase we've ever been above the state average. Because you need to understand the test does change. I mean, it changed 3 years ago. As you can look at the state average was between 68 and 76, and all of a sudden we adopted the Common Core. Actually, it's harder than the Common Core. Minnesota adopted some of the standards from the Common Core in language arts or reading, and then added some. So it's a difficult test, but you can see what stays the same is still the state average. And we've separated ourselves from the state every single year for the last 6 years. So 16 points above. Go to math, please. And again, you might think, oh, we were always good in math. Back in 2007, we were only 4 points above the state average. And like I've told the individual buildings or even at individual grade levels, I'll go back to middle school back in 2007. We were 1 point below the state average. And it's taken a lot of work by our staff of students to get where they are right now. But as you can see in the math proficiency here, it's gone from 4 to 6 to 8 to 11, 12, 18, and now 19. So it's the highest it's ever been. So that's pretty neat to see. So that's continuous improvement. And finally, the last one, science. We didn't do science. Never mind. Science is, I guess we didn't do that one. It was my fault there. But anyway, very proud of the results. We take a lot of pride in, and it couldn't be any better than it is right now. Well, I guess it is. Well, maybe better next year. We'll get to
Like all of
27.
our teachers and
Yeah, and
deserve
some
congratulations for their
Yep. There's a
work.
couple things I note too. I'll start with the high school. Math has increased the last 4 years, going from like 4 to 8 to 11. They're 16 points above state average, so there's been steady improvement in the high school, and same with reading. Almost exactly the same thing. I think as a high school, we're 16 points above state average. Obviously, in all 3 levels for science, it's outstanding. Middle school, 8th grade is 30 points above the state average. And I think as a middle school, I would say if, I'm going to have Brad Greger do the work, but I'm sure we're one of the top 3 middle schools in the state of Minnesota. 30 points in 8th grade math and 27 above the state average in math in 7th grade. 6th grade's right up there too. It's phenomenal. I believe our our proficiency level at the middle school in math is 82%, and state average is 57, so 25 points above the state average. And then what's interesting too is if you look back in 2007, I'm not going to show you that chart, but I can get you another time. Back in 2007, we were just about a point or two above state average in 3rd grade. Now our kids are 16, 17 points above state average at the end of 3rd grade. So just where they're at right now compared to they used to be. And I credit that to our 3rd grade staff, but also our pre-K, 1st and 2nd grade. You know, it's a team effort from grade to grade and from just even within that subject area. So it's really neat to see, and we're obviously getting the word out on that. Any questions, comments?
Well, the ACTs, when do we get those results?
We're still waiting.
They would be
Should be in
soon.
August.
Okay.
Should be in August. So, yeah, and then what's interesting is now through state legislature, they kept the MCAs, which are fine, but we're not doing, it's not mandatory ACT testing anymore. Now it's basically elective. The state will pay for them, and we got to figure out that. So
And that has to be during the school day again, right?
if there's a lot of kids, you're going to do it. So I don't think that's going to change. So Lonnie's checking with other school districts on what they're going to do and stuff like that. But the sort of, I want to say, the practice tests for the ACT, the Explore and the Plan tests in 8th and 10th grade, they're no longer, they're gone. And they put hours, a number of hours you can test now during the course of the year for elementary and secondary. But we'll be within the parameters of that. That's not an issue with us. So anyway, that's good news, update there, and go from there.
Thank you. Next, Sandy's going to brief us on the 10-year facility maintenance plan and
Yes,
their new
this-
changes in funding.
Yeah, there's a change in funding. I think I mentioned this a couple of months ago when we were talking about a legislative update after they got done in May. But we need to take some action tonight in order to qualify for this revenue. So this is brand new, long-term facilities maintenance revenue. It already has its own acronym. And it's phased in starting in 16-17. So it's going to affect the levy that we certify this fall, because the levy that we certify this fall will be collected in 2016, which is revenue for 16-17. And it replaces the health and safety levy and deferred maintenance levy and aid. But what is very different about this is the new levy is equalized at a higher level than the previous old levies, which means more revenue for the district for less local taxpayer input, which is very good news. I have a chart that explains that if you see on the left the old revenue stream, the levy is kind of in peach color, the aid is in blue, and the total revenue is in, I don't know what color that is, reddish.
Cardinal.
Cardinal, okay, cardinal.
red.
So in the 2014 levy, you see we had a total of $369,000 in revenue. Most of that was levy. The levy that's being collected this year, we had $438,000 of revenue, and again, by far the majority of that was levy. Now for the 2016 levy, you can see we can levy $380,000, but actually gets over $700,000 in revenue. So we can keep our levy very flat, the 385 versus the 380, but get significantly more revenue. So this is very good news for the district. This equalization formula is the first one ever at the state also to be indexed to inflation. So that is very good news for low property wealth districts, that we can stay ahead of that property valuations thing. So you see in 2016, we can levy the same, get more revenue. Now you see the total revenue available in 17 would be over $1 million potentially, and 18 over almost $1.5 million. Now obviously the board does not have to levy the entire amount. If we don't levy, then we don't receive the aid for that either though. But we can deal with that when it comes time.
And is it directly proportional kind of to the levy amount, or?
It's about 45% aid.
Okay.
Yep.
But it doesn't, it's not like more for a lower number and like
No.
more of a match or less of a match, okay.
So this really is a new financial tool in our financial toolbox, and it will allow us to do a couple of things. First of all, we have a couple of deferred maintenance items in our annual operating capital budget. We'll be able to move that to the new LTFM revenue. Things like our carpet cycle, tiling, painting, things like that. We take it out of our capital right now. We'll be able to take it out of this revenue. And we can also move some deferred maintenance items from our general fund to the long-term facilities maintenance revenue. Because right now, most of our repairs, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, those kinds of things, are all taken really out of our operating budget. Because our deferred maintenance revenue of $250 a year is really nothing, and we try to save that up for some bigger projects. So this is a great new tool for us. What is required for us to levy for, in 2016 will be a board-approved 10-year facility maintenance plan. Now, it's due on Thursday, and we need approval tonight. MDE knows that these plans will not be perfect because they gave us about 3 weeks to do it. So, I think, the plan for 2016 is pretty firm, very firm, and that's what we actually will, turn in for our levy. However, for 2017 and later are just estimates, and we will really need to flesh that out in the coming year. The districts that currently qualify for the alt facilities revenue, which really is what this is, have very detailed deferred maintenance plans going out 10 years. And I'm sure we'll have to do something similar to that, but right now we're just doing the best we can with the 3-week time frame that we have. So we're basically asking you to approve the 10-year plan tonight. I did update this to just the health and safety portion, which actually is kind of the same as it used to be. I updated the Finance Code 352 to what the board approved for the health and safety budget at the end of May. I realized I hadn't put the same numbers in, so I updated those numbers. And so you can see the top half there is health and safety, $181,000. The bottom half is the new kind of deferred maintenance, deferred capital kind of budget, and they've separated into several categories. We'll have a whole new set of codes and tracking to do for this. But they have building envelope, that's things like caulking and windows and tuck pointing, things like that, doors. We have building hardware and equipment. These are things that are kind of built into the building. Right now we have elevator maintenance. We've got some bleachers. These are bleachers, so we can replace or repair bleachers. Basketball hoops. We have a stage rigging system at the high school that needs to be improved. Electrical, that's kind of self-explanatory, lighting and electrical power distribution. Interior surfaces, that's things like the flooring and the wall coverings and the painting and ceilings and cabinetry and things like that. Finance Code 380 is mechanical systems, that's mainly HVAC and the mechanical controls of building. Plumbing, I think, is kind of self-explanatory. Finance Code 382, professional services and salaries. Right now, for our electrician, our HVAC person, and our, it's plumbing too, but we basically pay for that all out of our general fund, our operating budget. We'll be able to pay for some of those salaries now of our current employees out of this new budget. We'll also pay for services like if we need Cedar Lake Electric or climate makers or things like that, we can pay for that as well. And then the last thing is the second last thing is the roof replacement. We were going to be replacing the ECFE building roof this year. That didn't get done, so we moved that to next year. So that's in there for next year. Then I just have some repairs built in until fiscal year 22-23. That's when a portion of the high school roof is planned to be done. And this could change. It's long time out, but typically what we would do there is probably would sell bonds. We wouldn't levy the taxpayers $1.8 million all in 1 year. We'd probably sell bonds and then use the revenue to pay off the bonds. And then the last is site surfaces. That's things like parking lots. In fiscal year, in the 2016 levy, we have in there to do the resurfacing of some of the high school parking lot. We have tennis courts in there for next year. That's, the high school tennis courts are due to be redone or resurfaced. And then we have things like playground and stadium bleachers. You can even do field turf replacement. I'm not sure if we will do that. We've been putting aside money in our general fund to do that, but that is certainly an option to do with this money as well. So there's a lot of more investigating and planning to do, but for now, I think to approve the 10-year plan so we can do our levy in 2016 is really the best we can do tonight.
I have a question. You have, in your little graph, you have the total for 2016 for the levy and the aid is 700, and then your totals for expenditures are 800 and something.
Oh.
Does that mean it's coming from, some of it's coming from general fund?
Yeah, they'll limit us, they'll limit us to that levy amount.
Is this list just limited to what's on it, or are you able to make additions to it?
Well, I think, we have some flexibility. I build in some contingency, because we always have an air conditioner go out and things like that. So I build in contingency. For each one of those new finance codes will have its own reserve. So if we don't spend it, we'll have to carry it over. So, and all the details have not been worked out with MDE yet on this, so we're still
You
learning
can't move
more.
it from one, like from plumbing to mechanical?
I don't believe so, but like I said, it's very, very new,
And
so.
can you change it from year to year then? If you know you're going to carry over some?
I would think so, but the details are not available
Yeah,
yet.
this is like a 3-week, rush
Yeah,
job.
we got 3 weeks to do it, and
And we still got 2 more years in the CEC, so I'm sure we'll be using the mechanical
yeah, a lot of
portion.
our deferred maintenance money, or projects have been taken care of with the bond, which is wonderful.
So, and if you're saying you're setting it up in reserves, that should hopefully help if something comes up like you just mentioned. Okay.
Yep,
So if there's
yep.
like a reserve that,
Yeah, so like I say, the details are still coming out. Right now, our job is to do the 2016 levy.
okay.
So if I could get an approval on this tonight, then I can send that into MDE and be on time, so. Which I'm sure a lot of districts will not be on time, but.
Looks like this is really a good tool that we have at our disposal to get planning ahead of, instead of just doing it patchwork or as is, comes up, we can look to the future as to what our needs are, and this sounds like a really good plan.
Yeah, and it's equalized, the equalized levy is really a step up
Well, it's
with
huge
it being
for our
indexed.
district.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Especially, we're a property poor district, so this is huge. Second best thing since the referendum.
If there aren't any more questions, can we get a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve the 10-year plan for
Second.
maintenance.
Any further comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a donation from Shopko for the high school.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution to accept the gift from
I
Shopko Hometown.
I'll
Don't
make the
move.
motion that
I'll
we
sec.
accept the donation from Shopko.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution, whereas the New Prague Area School Board of Education has established a policy concerning the acceptance of gifts to the school district, and whereas the school board may accept the gift valued at $1,000 or more only by adoption of a resolution by 2/3 of its members, whereas Shopko Hometown wishes to donate $2,500 to the New Prague area schools with no conditions. How do you vote on this, Don?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dennis? Yes, item passes.
Finally, we need to have a closed session per Minnesota statute 13D.03 sub 1 for the purpose of going over negotiations for contracts.
I'll make a motion, we move to closed session.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.